while Roman senators bathed in warm milk and slept on pillows filled with swan feathers, the families below them were drowning in human waste. You wake up in Rome. The air is not filled with the scent of laurel or fresh marble. It is a thick, choking smog of burning wood, rotting cabbage, and the urine of a million desperate souls. You open your eyes to absolute darkness. The ceiling is so low you can touch the bare, damp plaster with your knuckles without even extending your arm fully. Around you, 6 people breathe in the same heavy, stagnant air, their bodies packed tight on a straw mattress that crawls with bedbugs and lice. The biting is constant, a relentless itch that has scabbed over your arms and legs. This is your home, a single, windowless room on the 5th floor of a crumbling insula, a Roman tenement block built from cheap timber, thin gravel, and sun-dried clay bricks. The walls are paper-thin and cracked. You hear everything. The hacking, wet cough of the dying old woman next door, the desperate crying of a hungry newborn downstairs, and the terrifying creak of the floorboards beneath you. The building is shifting. It always shifts. In Rome, these vertical slums collapse weekly, folding like cards and crushing hundreds of poor tenants in their sleep. You step onto the cold clay floor. The ground is sticky with spilled grease and dried sweat. You do not look down. You already know what it is, and you do not have the water to clean it. The city has not slept. By Roman law, heavy cargo carts are banned from the streets during the day to prevent traffic congestion. This means that all night long, the iron-tired wheels of ox carts have been crashing against the basalt paving stones right under your building. The noise is deafening, a continuous metallic rumble that vibrates through the fragile timber frame of your tenement room. You have spent the night tossing and turning, your head throbbing from the lack of sleep, listening to the shouting of drivers and the cracking of whips. You reach for your tunic in the dark. It is a coarse, unwashed piece of low-grade wool, stiff with sweat and gray grime from weeks of hard labor under the Mediterranean sun. There is no water to wash it, and no water to wash yourself. Water does not reach the 5th floor. The grand aqueducts feed the public fountains on the street level and the private baths of the wealthy patricians. But up here, every single drop must be carried up steep, narrow wooden stairs in heavy earthenware jars. If you want to wash your clothes, you must send them to the fulonicae, the public laundries, where workers stomp on your garments in tubs filled with human urine collected from street corner jars, using the ammonia to strip the grease. Since you cannot afford this, your tunic stays dirty, smelling of old sweat and river mud. Your back aches from yesterday's climb, a dull, throbbing pain that never truly goes away. You rub your eyes, feel the crust of dust, and sleep in the corners, and spit on the floor. The spit is thick, brown, and tastes of smoke. At the bottom of the tenement stairs, the water seller, the Aquarius, is already shouting. He stands beside his cart, guarding a barrel of lukewarm, cloudy water he hauled from the public fountain. He charges a copper quadrans for a single jar. You argue with him, pointing out the dust floating on the surface, but he does not care. If you do not pay, you do not drink. You hand over one of your precious coins, watching him measure the water with a dented tin cup, spilling a few drops in the mud. For you, water is a currency of survival. Less than 300 yards away, Senator Lucius wakes. He does not hear the screeching of the nocturnal ox carts. His bedroom is nestled in the deep center of a vast domus, insulated from the roar of the Roman streets by thick concrete walls lined with white plaster. He opens his eyes to the soft sound of water trickling into a central marble pool, the impluvium. The air is cool, carrying the sweet scent of imported rose oil and burning pine cones. A slave stands in the shadows, waiting for the slightest movement. Another slave gently slides a tunic of fine bleached linen over the senator's shoulders. It is soft, light, and smells of sun-dried lavender. The senator steps onto a floor of detailed mosaic tiles, depicting sea nymphs and dolphins. The stones are cool and clean, scrubbed at dawn by 3 young slaves using vinegar and clean rags. He walks into the open courtyard, the peristyle, where orange trees grow in large clay pots and a small bronze fountain shoots clean, cold water into the morning light. He dips his fingers into the pool, washes his face, and dries it with a cloth of Egyptian cotton. For Lucius, water is not a burden. It is a decorative toy. After rising, the senator prepares for his morning bath in his private bathing suite, the thermi. Two muscular slaves rub his skin with olive oil imported from Greece, then use a curved iron scraper, the strigil, to remove the dirt, sweat, and dead skin. They wash him in a pool of hot water heated by the furnace below, then plunge him into a cold pool to tighten his skin. He emerges refreshed, his skin soft and smelling of cardamom and sweet myrrh. To step outside, the senator must be dressed in his formal toga. This is not a simple garment. It is a massive, semicircular sheet of heavy, fine white wool, nearly 6 yards long. It requires 2 slaves to drape it correctly, folding the fabric in precise, elegant pleats around his body, securing it over his left shoulder. The weight of the wool is heavy and hot, designed not for comfort, but to display his status. He cannot run, he cannot work, and he can barely raise his right arm. The toga is a physical proof that he does not need to lift a finger to survive. If you want to keep exploring the side of history most people never see, subscribe. Your stomach rumbles. It is a dull, familiar ache that hollows out your chest. You walk to the small wooden table in the corner of the room to find your morning meal. There is no kitchen here. Cooking with fire in these wooden tenements is illegal because a single spark can burn down an entire district, though people do it anyway out of desperation. Today you have no wood, so you eat cold. Your breakfast is a chunk of hard, gray barley bread. It is cheap, heavy, and baked with flour cut with sand and sawdust to increase the baker's profit. You bite down. The grit grates against your teeth, wearing them down to the nerves. You wash the dry crumbs down with a cup of sour, watered-down pasca, a vinegar-like wine that tastes of rust and copper. To give it some flavor, you dip the bread in a few drops of cheap, rancid garum, a fermented fish gut sauce that smells like a rotting wharf. Senator Lucius sits in his dining room, the triclinium, reclining on a plush couch draped in crimson silk. Before him lies a low cedar table laden with silver platters. A slave presents a selection of fresh figs, white grapes still wet with dew, and soft cheese made from sheep's milk, drizzled with wild thyme honey. Another slave pours him a cup of Falernian wine, a vintage aged for 15 years, mixed with sweet honey and cold snow brought by runners from the peaks of the Apennine Mountains. The senator does not eat bread made of barley. He eats only fine white wheat loaves, baked in his private kitchen by a master baker brought from Alexandria. He complains that the figs are slightly too ripe, pushes the plate away, and lets the slave clear it to feed the dogs. If this kind of reality hits harder than fiction, leave a like. Later in the afternoon, the senator will host a banquet. The menu includes dormice stuffed with minced pork, wild boar roasted whole with its belly filled with live thrushes that fly out when cut open, and peacock eggs containing small roasted bibecos. He has spent more sesterces on this single dinner than 100 dock workers will earn in their entire lives. By midday, your bladder is full. There are no pipes in your building, no sinks, no toilets. In the corner of your room sits a cracked terracotta pot, the lacinum. It is full of the family's waste from the night. You pick it up by the rim. The smell is sharp, ammonia-rich, and stings your nostrils. You walk to the small opening in the wall that serves as a window and look down. The alleyway below is narrow, dark, and filled with a thick layer of mud, horse manure, and rotting garbage. You shout a brief warning into the street and dump the contents of the pot. It splashes into the mud below. You are not the only one. All along the street, pots are being emptied from the upper floors. If you walk down the alley, you must keep your head down and your hood up, or you will be covered in the waste of your fellow Romans. To use a proper toilet, you must walk to the public latrines. You enter a long stone room where 40 men sit side by side on stone benches with keyhole-shaped cuts. There are no dividers, no doors, no privacy. You sit next to a sweaty mule driver and a coughing beggar. Beneath the benches, a small stream of dirty water from the public baths flows to carry the waste away. But the smell is overwhelming, a thick wall of excrement and damp rot. Between your feet is a shallow stone channel filled with vinegar and salt water. In it sits a wooden stick with a sea sponge attached to the end, the xylospongium. This is the shared toilet paper of the Roman public. You reach down, pick up the wet, stained sponge, use it, and drop it back into the channel for the next man to use. The water in the channel is dark and dirty. Using these latrines is not just disgusting, it is terrifying. The dark channels beneath the seats are filled with rats that occasionally crawl up to bite your thighs, and the buildup of methane gas sometimes ignites, sending bursts of flame up through the holes. People paint images of the goddess Fortune or protective demons on the walls, praying that they will survive their daily visit without catching the bloody flux or being burned by a gas explosion. This is how cholera and dysentery spread through the city, killing thousands of poor Romans every summer. Senator Lucius does not use the public latrines. In the back of his domus, near the kitchen, is a private latrine. It is a clean room with walls painted with frescoes of mountain streams and red birds. The seat is carved from polished white marble, kept warm by a small charcoal brazier placed nearby. Beneath the seat, a private connection to the Great Sewer, the Cloaca Maxima, uses a constant rush of clean, pressurized water from the aqueduct to wash all waste away instantly. Next to the marble seat sits a basket of fresh, dry sea sponges, used once by the senator and immediately thrown into a fire by a slave. The senator reads a scroll of poetry while he sits, listening to the soft murmur of the water below. If you had to live through this, what do you think would break you first? Tell me in the comments. You spend your afternoon in the sun, baking on the docks of the Tiber River. You are a day laborer. You haul heavy sacks of grain, stone blocks, and jars of Spanish oil from the cargo ships to the warehouses. The sun burns your neck. Your hands are raw, blistered, and caked with river mud. The dust from the grain sacks enters your lungs, causing you to cough up dry, white powder. If you drop a jar, the overseer beats you with a vine cane. If you break your leg, you are fired on the spot, left to starve on the steps of the temple. You earn 3 copper coins a day, barely enough to buy the barley bread and the sour wine. Senator Lucius spends his afternoon in the shade of the forum, discussing politics and land deals. He wears a toga with a broad purple border, the sign of his rank. He does not work with his hands. He owns 3 wheat farms in Sicily, 2 olive groves in Spain, and 80 slaves who do all the physical labor. His only struggle is deciding which political ally to support in the next Senate meeting, and whether to buy a new Greek slave who can play the lyre. As the sun sets, Rome changes. The city has no streetlights. The alleys become pitch black, silent, and incredibly dangerous. You walk back to your tenement block, keeping close to the walls, your hand gripping a small iron knife hidden in your sleeve. The shadows are filled with cut purses, runaway slaves, and bands of young, wealthy patricians who drink wine and roam the streets, beating and robbing poor citizens for entertainment. You reach your insula, climb the creaking stairs, and bar the door of your room with a heavy wooden beam. But tonight, the danger is inside. Around midnight, you wake to a strange sound, a crackling, a roar. The air in the room is hot, thick, and smells of burning resin. Someone downstairs was cooking with an open charcoal stove. The dry pine frame of the insula has caught fire. In seconds, the lower 3 floors are a wall of flame. Smoke fills your room, blinding you, burning your throat. You scream to your family. You rush to the doorway, but the narrow wooden staircase is already packed with screaming, panicking tenants. People push, trip, and trample each other in the dark. The weak are crushed underfoot. The vigiles, the Roman firefighters, finally arrive, but they do not bring water pumps to save your building. They realize the dry wood structure is already lost. Instead of fighting the flames, they begin tearing down the adjacent tenement blocks with axes and hooks, creating a firewall to prevent the blaze from spreading to the wealthy estates nearby. They throw buckets of water on the walls of the senator's domus, leaving you and your family to burn in the dark. The air is so thick with black smoke you cannot see your hands. You look out the small window. The drop is 50 feet to the stone alley below. Jump and die, or stay and burn. Senator Lucius is finishing his dinner party. The domus is bathed in the warm yellow light of dozens of tallow candles and bronze oil lamps. He sits with his guests, drinking wine from thin glass cups, laughing at the jokes of a professional dwarf. Outside, in the distance, the horns of the vigiles, the Roman firefighters, blow to signal another tenement fire. The senator hears the faint sound, but he does not look up. His house is built of thick, non-flammable concrete and brick. His slaves stand at the doors, armed with iron clubs to keep the panic of the streets away. He takes another sip of wine, reaches for a fresh fig, and smiles. The fire will clear the slum, allowing him to buy the land cheap and build a new warehouse. Let us explore what happens to the sick in the cold shadows of the Subura. If you fall ill in your damp room, there is no doctor. The Greek physicians in Rome charge more than a laborer makes in a year. Instead, you buy a lead amulet from a street merchant, inscribed with a curse, to ward off the fever demon, or you drink water boiled with dried dung and vinegar. The fever burns inside you, while the damp drafts from the cracked walls make you shiver. You lie on the dirty straw, listening to the rats chewing on the dry wood near your feet, wondering if the next breath will be your last. If you die, your body will be dragged out by your family and left on the street corner at dawn, waiting for the public corpse collectors to throw you into a mass grave outside the city gates, buried like a dead dog. In the domus, Senator Lucius feels a slight headache from the strong vintage of the previous night. He does not pray to cheap lead amulets. He calls for his private Greek physician, a highly educated slave who cost him 10,000 sesterces. The doctor examines the senator's pulse, washes his hands in hot water infused with chamomile, and prepares a soothing draught of imported Egyptian myrrh, honey, and crushed white pearls. The senator rests on a soft couch in a room warmed by underfloor heating pipes, the hypocaust. Two young slave girls gently fan him with peacock feathers to keep the flies away while the physician monitors his breathing. By afternoon, the senator's headache is gone, and he rewards the doctor with a silver coin. Let us look at the children who grow up in these two worlds. In your tenement room, your 5-year-old son does not know how to read. He has never seen a scroll. Since he was old enough to walk, he has been collecting dung from the streets to sell to the tanners, or carrying firewood for the public baths for a single copper coin. His skin is pale, his belly swollen from a diet of pure grain porridge without vegetables or meat. He has already lost 2 sisters to the winter flu, their small bodies buried in the muddy ground near the river. His future is the same as yours. A lifetime of carrying heavy jars up wooden stairs until his back breaks. In the palace, the senator's young son sits in a sunlit room holding a stylus of polished ivory. He is learning to read Greek and Latin from a private tutor, a philosopher brought from Athens. The child writes on wax tablets, learning the speeches of Cicero and the history of the Republic. After his lessons, he plays in the garden with toys made of carved wood and painted clay, while a slave guard watches from the gate to ensure no beggar or thief comes near the boy. The child wears a miniature toga of fine white wool, and his skin is healthy and tanned from running in the clean air of his father's country villa. This is the absolute division of Rome. The contrast is written in every stone, every smell, and every breath. The great columns of the temples do not touch the sky because of the gods. They stand because 1,000,000 nameless hands hauled them from the quarries under the whip. The senator's gold is bright because it is washed in the sweat of the slums. The empire is a machine that runs on the lives of the poor, grinding their bones to dust to polish the marble palaces of the elite. You close your eyes to the darkness, hearing the crackle of distant flames, knowing that in the morning, Rome will still be there, and you will still be at the bottom. And if you want to step into another brutal chapter of history, there is more waiting on this channel.